It's been yet another busy week in Parliament, with some late-night sittings in the National Assembly. On Thursday, Mashatile's question and answer session was delayed due to a suspected fire, but it was a false alarm.
The capacitor in a light overheated, affecting the light cover, which consequently caused the smoke in office number 31. As a result, the smoke detector was triggered, further triggering the fire alarm system. I'm informed that there was no further damage as a result of this.
The Deputy President began his reply on a lighter note.
Somebody sent me a message on my phone from Joburg and said, we hear that Paul is on fire in Cape Town.
Then it was time to get down to real business as Mashatile refuted allegations made by some opposition parties that the ANC was using its majority to sweep the Palapala matter under the carpet.
There is no shielding. I think sometimes there's a zeal to find the president guilty without going through due processes. It's not correct. We are a democracy. We have institutions that we have set up independent. Nobody's interfering with them. Let's not be impatient.
The Deputy President also made an undertaking to rein in errant ministers who failed to appear for answer sessions in Parliament.
There will be consequences if members of the executive don't respond to questions. Obviously, the Speaker has powers to reprimand members who don't comply. And I think the Speaker did it recently. I know that other members felt that was harsh.
He also took a swipe at the DA for criticizing the ANC, while they also used the majority to push through decisions in the Western Cape. Mashatile was also questioned about the impact of load shedding on hospitals, as only a handful are exempted. He says government is concerned but cannot make a commitment about compensation.
Is the government considering to compensate families who are affected by death as a result of load shedding?
We just need to be careful not to open a can of worms. There are many people affected, and in fact, government may not afford to be able to compensate everybody who's affected.
In the same sitting, the ANC voted against a DA motion calling for the establishment of a parliamentary ad hoc committee to probe corruption and criminal cartels operating at Eskom. The motion was opposed by the ANC on the grounds that the current parliamentary mechanisms and the president's appointment of the electricity minister was adequate to deal with the issues at Eskom.
I move to insert in paragraph 6A, after the word Eskom, the following words, including inquiring into all coal contracts, all evergreen contracts, and all contracts between Eskom and smelting companies. I so move, House Chair.
The ANC objects.
House Chair, you had put the amendment to the House and you had asked if there are no objections. At that point, there were no objections. Now you are putting the question to the House with the draft resolution, with the amendment included. And now the ANC has raised the objection. I think it's important for the record. And I would like to call for a division, please, House Chair.
Honorable members, the results of the division is as follows. Those who said yes to the motion, 115. Those who said no, it's 201.
On Wednesday, National Assembly Speaker Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula survived an EFF motion of no confidence against her. This follows the removal of EFF MPs who protested on stage during the State of the Nation address last month. The EFF's motion was defeated with 234 votes in favor, 42 against, and 73 abstentions.
Her sole mandate is to protect Ramaphosa. Whenever Mr. Ramaphosa is being held accountable, she chooses violence. She chose to abuse her powers, violate the constitution and the rules of the National Assembly.
The ANC dismissed the motion as nothing but political theatrics and populism.
South Africans have witnessed on countless occasions deliberate acts of sabotage and disruption where important debates are often put on hold or interrupted through brazen acts of anarchy, violence and intimidation.
The DA did not vote. The party says the motion was narrow and devoid of crucial points.
In this short space of time that the Speaker has been at the helm of this institution, we have seen its deterioration. It is undeniable. However, the DA cannot support this motion as it stands. The motion is deficient and it is procedurally flawed.
The disruptions of SONA is still a subject of discussion by Parliament's Joint Rules Committee. This after Mapisa Ngakula referred the matter to the committee to consider disciplinary action against EFF MPs. Meanwhile, in the same sitting, the DA motion to establish an ad hoc committee to probe the burglary and theft of foreign currency at President Cyril Ramaphosa's Palapala farm was also defeated. The motion received 135 votes for and 204 votes against, with no abstentions.
No matter how hard the ANC tries to hold back the tide, there will become a day of reckoning for each and every member of this House to account for how you called out your vote today. So I urge you to support the motion. But at the end of the day, the one thing that every South African must remember is this: an innocent man should never be afraid of the truth, and an innocent president should never be afraid of Parliament.
We must establish this ad hoc committee to investigate everything, including the police that were involved in chasing the people who want to take the money in Palapala, so that we can get to the bottom of this, because we cannot have a lawless country where the sitting police commissioner is involved in pursuit of criminals in a criminal way.
The ANC described the motion as opportunistic.
The call for establishing an ad hoc committee is not only contaminated by opposition parties' biases, but also fails to comply with the fair due processes, and therefore it should be rejected on all grounds. Secondly, and crucially, this draft resolution is an opportunistic one.
Turning to the Section 194 inquiry probing the fitness to hold office by suspended public protector, Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane, the inquiry acknowledges it faces risks. This includes the deadline to complete its work, providing procedural fairness, and solving challenges of legal fees for Mkhwebane.
The ruling of the Concord that says the public protector has a right to legal representation. So, and the office, the PPSA has been funding this particular process. Now, if the PPSA says by end of March, we don't have funds, we can no longer fund, what is going to happen if then the legal representative, then they then withdraw to say we can't continue because there's nobody who's going to pay us? Are we going to continue from the 1st of April without the legal representation? If we are continuing, is the PP not going to go back to court and says, I'm proceeding with the inquiry without public representative because there's nobody who's willing to pay for such public representation? Or are we expecting the PP to pay for herself?
The committee will now approach other stakeholders to resolve the funding challenge.
It can't be wished away because after next week, Friday, if that is not attended, there's no work, and therefore it has to be attended and the suggestions that as this committee of inquiry, that's not necessarily our space, but that work can be done to ensure that those that can drive and can be responsible, starting with the Justice Committee, with the Minister, who can link up with the Speaker, that must be done as a matter of urgency, so that at least by next week, before the 31st, there's clarity on those issues.
Mkhwebane will be back before the committee on Tuesday. Ulelani Philip, SABC News, Parliament.